What's up guys, welcome back to Horsepower and Pizza. There is a lot going on in today's video. I modified the hubs for the front wheels, my steering came in, and we're going to start mocking up the front knuckles that are going to attach to the front wheels and hubs and the steering. I'm going to design something today. Unfortunately, I don't have time to make them this week, but we'll have a decent understanding of how that's going to work. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump straight into it. I'll modify the hubs first, and we'll go from there. When I bought the front wheels, it came with these hubs. This boss is supposed to slide through the center of the wheel, but these are laser cut. They're brand new, but they don't fit like so. So I put this one up in the lathe, skimmed 20 thousandths off that diameter. Fits now, it'll bolt right up, so that's what I gotta do with this one now. So now that the hubs are both modified and it sits down in here, I'm going to measure the offset or back spacing from the back side of the wheel, just like the rear wheels. I know this is the back side because the valve stem is on this side, so I put that side down, I put the hub down in. This level rests on both faces of the hub. So now I'm going to take this one scale, measure from the face of the bearing to the bottom edge of the level. That's exactly 1 inch. I sat down, did some measuring, did some drawing, and did some math, and I apologize if some of this is a little hard to follow. I promise it's all going to make sense when it's done, so please just bear with me, watch along, follow along, and if I screw something up and have to change a design or redo something, I'm gonna show all of that because this is the first one of these that I've ever built. Just like the rear hubs, these are 1 inch and 13/16 long. The difference being the rear hubs have 1 1/4 inch bore to go on the drive shaft. These have 5/8 diameter bore bearings, and that's what I'm going to build to stick to this knuckle. I apologize, the drawing is not great, and no, it is not to scale. This is the 5/8 diameter that's going to be 1 inch and 13/16 long to stick the whole way through this. This comes out to 1.5 inches diameter because that's just bigger than the bearing, so it will give something for this to seat back against. This end will be drilled and tapped in the center, and there will be a cap that goes on to hold the bearing onto the spindle in case it were to slip and try to slide off. Now when it comes back on and sits on this shoulder, but behind that shoulder it's going to reduce from 1.5 inches down to 1 inch. And I will explain that on the next segment that I'm going to draw up now. And this is the part that I may have to make multiple times to get it right, but I'm going to give it a shot. This drawing is very rough. A lot of my locations are to be determined, but I'll explain to you my thought process. This is basically going to be the knuckle. The spindle that the hub will slip on is going to go into this with the 1 inch diameter part. This I have drawn up as 4 by 3 by 2 inches thick. That is all subject to change. Goes into this the 1 inch end of the spindle goes into the 1 inch bore, and then I can drill and ream straight through that while it's assembled, and then I can stick a pin through there so that spindle cannot come out. I can also drill and tap that. There's a million ways to do it. I'm just freestyling off of the top of my head at this point. Now you'll notice on the bottom I have this 10mm tapped hole, also location to be determined. I have it offset to one side. Because of how thick this block is and how much free material we have to work with down here, I can actually put multiple tapped holes coming up from the bottom face, and we can change the steering up that way. The steering I was waiting on for weeks finally showed up yesterday, and I must say I'm actually fairly impressed with the quality of it. For it just being a cheap go-kart, steering rack that I bought on eBay that was made in China. Because I work in American manufacturing, I hate to buy things from China, but on this I didn't want to spend loads and loads of money on something that I wasn't even sure was going to work. If nothing else, it gave me something to go off of that I could end up making my own in the future. This is just a quick look at the steering that I got. I was actually really surprised. The wheel is actually like padded and it's a flat bottom wheel. It's got like the thumb indents. So I was intending on making my own wheel. Still might. There's some other issues that I haven't cleared up yet. We'll figure that out. The rack and pinion is a linear actuator. As you twist the pinion, the rack will move one way or another depending on rotation. The pinion is the circular gear, and then the rack is this flat linear gear at the bottom. That's how steering works. Like I said, it was a cheap Chinese setup, but it's going to work for what we need. I haven't decided yet. I might end up cutting this down and modifying it. This side is right-handed threads and this side is left-handed threads. I'll explain all of that in another video. But if we go back to my drawing, I have the 10mm tapped holes coming in the bottom face of the knuckle. That is what these will thread into, instead of the castle nuts on top. They put castle nuts on these, but they didn't come with the cotter pins that would go in and lock through that pinhole in the thread that would lock the nut onto this. So that was a small oversight on the manufacturer's part, but I don't think I'm going to use the castle nuts anyway, so we will go from there. I want to apologize for the lack of building this week. I'll be back in the shop working on this in the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of design to this, and like I said, with this being the first one that I've built, there's a lot of unknowns. I don't even have anything to go off of, so everything's going to be trial and error from here on out. Danny and I are going to finish up the gas tank here soon too, so that's going to be done. As of right now, I have all of the parts in my possession, so we can make this happen. I really want to mock up the steering before we start mocking up the chassis so we know that we can make everything fit. Everything's here. I can make this happen. I'm confident in myself and my abilities, and I want to leave you guys with that too. Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge, and at face value, I'll agree with that without any analyzation, but just find a way to chase after your dreams, regardless of what they are. This was something spur of the moment that popped into my head, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Then all of the puzzle pieces just started to connect one another, and we've gotten this far. I'm not gonna give up on it. I'm really excited to see how it goes. I'm gonna leave you guys with that for this week. At Horsepower Pizza on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. At Pizza Boy Metalworks on Instagram. At Cold Pizza Podcast on Instagram, as well as iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Huge thank you and huge shout out to John Kilmer for joining me last week on the podcast. That was sick. I have new merch coming. I'll be doing a video about that in the next few weeks. Stay tuned for that. If you want to support, head over to www.horsepowerandpizza.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. Build it for you.